I want to take the time to say thank you. Thank you for agreeing to sit down and meet and talk. I've been having a series of conversation with various women on different journeys and different season in their life. And, the goal is to talk about things that we often don't talk about, don't want to talk about it. But it's thing that most women are dealing with, or many women are dealing with. And it's things that, in conversation, we can either make some changes or encourage or motivate another person going through a similar situation. So first, I'd like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell us, your name, how long you've been married, how many children, all that good stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Marie, but I'm known as Gigi. That's my nickname.
Yes.
I am currently working as a hairstylist and also an event planner.
First, let me ask you real quick with the event planning, with the pandemic, how's that been? Have you had a lot of events or?
Well, when the corona was, going on strong,
Uh-huh.
I actually didn't want to have any event because I didn't want to be near people. But now that things are slowing down, it's
Uh-huh.
easier to, have event for a smaller amount of people.
Okay, well, that's great. So, what got you into event planning? I know I've been to a few of your parties, and I know you do a wonderful job with your decor. If I could think about your son's birthday with the cat in the hat, that was amazing.
Yes, thank you. Well, what got me into event planning is that I've always loved decorating.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if it's a home or if it's a place. I just love decorating. But I definitely enjoy decorating. I don't know. It's just I think it's beautiful. Well, the
Yeah,
name of my business is actually Gigi Elegant Decor.
beautiful.
Thank you. I love the word elegant. I
Yes.
think.
Well, you are an elegant woman, so
Oh,
I can see why you would
yeah.
love the word elegant.
Thank you. I do think the word says a lot about, what I am trying to put out there as far as the event planner.
Right, right.
Try to make every event as special and as beautiful as I can.
I know you haven't told us about family wise. I'm trying to figure out how do you balance it all. I'll let you finish.
Well,
Because you're gonna have to give us some of your secret. How you a hairstylist, you have a business. I know you have little ones, so I'll let you continue.
so I am married and I do have two children now. One is 7, about to be 8, and
Wow.
one is a year and a half. So it's been a lot, especially now, like with the change of school, like where you have to do virtual school at home.
Right, right.
It's a lot to try to do decoration and trying to focus on the home and, just trying to take care of the kids and all. I think if I wasn't doing that, it wouldn't be me. I'm a busybody. I like to,
I know, I know.
well,
Yes.
I have to be doing 2 to 3 jobs or else I'm not, I'm not me.
I remember a period in your life when you used to work nighttime, overnight, and you had your first child, Ryan, who was still a little baby. And during the daytime, you were taking care of him. I don't know how you did that. I don't know.
It's a lot. It's a
And you
lot.
were
But
always involved in stuff.
I thank God for giving me the strength to be able to balance all this stuff. So it's pretty cool. As I was saying about my marriage,
Yes.
I've been married for 2 years and 3 months now.
Wow.
Yes,
Time flies.
yes, it does. Altogether, we've been together for 5 years and total. This is actually unfortunately, my second marriage.
Yes, I know. I remember you walking through that first marriage, how heartbroken you were when things were really hard. And I know you are going to talk about, that experience. And because many women experience that. Most people get married with the intention of being married forever, you think about happily ever after. So when, especially you've given all that you can, you've done all that you can to make it happen and to make it work and to see it not happening. With the first marriage, how long were you married for?
I was married for 4 years.
4 years. Mm-hmm.
4 long years.
Out of that marriage, you had one child?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Okay. All right. Tell us what happened. How we'll talk about the first marriage and then, what happened. What are some of the challenges that you experienced in that marriage? What got you to where you are now? Because I know things are completely different. Completely different. Thank God you're in a new season.
Well, where do I start? Okay, so in 2008, we moved to Tampa, me, my sister, and my good friend, which is like a family to us. We moved to Tampa to start school and just to start fresh, just getting to know different people, grow a little bit.
Yes.
Be more independent. I was attending this church, which is where I met you.
Yes.
And that's also where I met my ex-spouse.
Right.
Yes. Funny. It's so funny how it happened. I remember one of his friends was introducing him to me. And I must say it was not love at first sight. When I saw him, I was like, Jesus, that's not it. But okay. So when he introduced him to me, I was like, I think you better pass him on to one of your friends or family. I think I'm okay. And I had a little talk, with the pastor at the time, and he kind of encouraged me to, think that, I should at least get to know the person because he think he was a good person or whatnot. So as my leader, which at that time I consider him as a father because my dad has been my pastor forever. So,
yes, your dad is a pastor.
Yes. So I looked at him as, he was my father. So when he used to talk to me and encourage me. So when he said, somebody at the church was mentioning that somebody was trying to talk to you, but you didn't want to talk to him. I was like, oh, who are you referring to? When he said the person, I was like, that's not what I was thinking, but okay. I put some thought into it, and I gave it a chance just to get to know him a little bit. Mm-hmm. Things kind of happened super fast. Fast forward, we got married. Mm-hmm. I would say about a year later. A year. The wedding was supposed to be in December, and he was in a situation where I don't know if I should even say, but he needed that kind of, assistance. Okay. So then I was like, well, if he loves me and I think I love him, why not move the wedding date just to make sure, he's okay? Because I'm that person. If I'm with you, and I will give you everything I have. Right. So I was like, well, why not? Let's just move the wedding date so that, the situation will be accommodated. Right. So we got married in July instead of December. I would say a few months later, his sister had lived with us just when we got married and moved in. Mm-hmm. And I noticed the name that he said he was going by, the sister was never calling him that name. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, so why are you calling him this name again? She was like, well, I never knew him as this name. I was like, hold on, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. So that's when I find out that was not his real name. I was like, oh boy, I just married to a stranger. What did I get myself into? Right. So then when he came home and I spoke to him and I find out, I guess the reason why the name was changed, I was like, okay, is there any more secret that I need to know?
Right, right.
So that definitely put a lot of doubt in my head. But then I was like, okay, I give it a chance. We did have a lot of obstacles. I can say things was not great at all. I guess we always try to put up a front and, just make it seem like things was okay.
Mhm.
I can say the first month that we got married, I was ready to walk away.
Mm.
And my dad had to get after me and said, oh, you going back home. You just got married. You're not coming to my house. You going back to your husband. I was
Right,
like, okay, like, what is this about? You're supposed to be on my side.
right,
So
right.
things was really rough. Even to make matter worse, I remember the day that I was getting married. I wanted to be a one-array bride so bad. I was like, what am I doing? I don't understand this. But I did it anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we have our instinct. God created us and give us certain instinct, but sometimes we doubt those instincts because we are uncertain of ourselves, because we don't have the confidence to know, hey, this is not just like an uneasy feeling or feeling of nervousness. This is like more than that. And especially when we're young, we don't give credit to that because we're uncertain of ourselves, especially when we have somebody in authority telling us something else. So that's one of the things that I'd want to address. You said, you were under the umbrella of your pastor who was guiding you and saying, hey, this is something that you should pursue. And I also could imagine the fact that because it was somebody that you met in the church, you felt more comfortable in saying, hey, this is somebody in the church. But sadly, a lot of times we have a lot of wolf in sheep clothing in the church. And a lot of people have gotten burned by the fact that you have people that are in the church. They're just looking for, their next victim.
Exactly.
And you said you moved to Tampa, meaning that you were in another area and you moved as you were going to school. And so that was the first time you were away from home.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, you grew up in the church. Your pastor, your dad was a minister, which I'm sure also played a factor in, you trying very hard to make things work because, I couldn't imagine, you were a pastor's child and now you're talking about divorce. That's like that's the bad word that we don't ever talk about. So I know that was difficult, having to walk through that before realizing, hey, this cannot work. And you mentioned like he was in a situation and you felt like, okay, well, I care for this person and we're talking about building our life together. So even if I have to move things a few months earlier so that I can assist. I'm sure everybody's aware we're talking about immigration status.
Of course. Well, right. It was more so housing.
Okay.
That didn't even play a role yet.
In the Haitian community, I've seen so many people who've gotten burned, especially women, because they are people who either they're looking for an opportunity to have legal status in the country and they present themselves one way. And many times, you have the person who really cares and the other person is not genuine. How do we overcome that? How do we fight that?
I mean, you said the most important things already is that trust your instinct, trust your gut. God give us this for a good reason. And sometimes we're so desperate and we're so desperate to find someone to love us. Or I would say for most people, it's more so like we think, okay, there might not be anybody else out there for me. So, let me just keep this person. That might be my only luck, So I would say try not to settle, because sometimes we give in too easy.
Right.
Just follow your instinct, because your instinct won't lie to you, especially as women. God give it to us for a reason.
Right. Yeah, you say something so powerful about us feeling like, I know sometimes, especially women, we get a certain age and we think, okay, this is not happening. The clock is ticking and we either settle or we're, like you said, we're desperate to find somebody to love us. And we find ourselves in situations that often backfire because that's not what God intended. And we are settling and find ourselves in situations that's very damaging.
And one thing I would say too, especially like for Haitian parents, like especially now day and age, it's important to be very open with your kids, especially like, daughter. There are things that you hide from them. You don't teach it to them. The world will teach it to them.
Right, right.
Or they'll
Right.
have to make a huge mistake and learn from it. But if you can teach them what, the little things in life, that will hopefully, save them from making huge mistake in the future.
Mhm.
Which I would say for me, I think I was too innocent.
Mhm. Yeah, you were too sheltered, were naive, and thinking everybody
Exactly.
has good intentions, especially in the church.
Yep.
Mhm.
And the way I was raised, my parent always says, help people. If you have it, why not? If you can help someone, help them. And I think I just used all my sense of innocence and it
Yeah.
backfired on me.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was some very hard years. I never had a lot of support from his side of the family. Even like after I had my son, like I felt like I could never do nothing good enough for his mother. It doesn't matter if I bring her food; the food was never cooked well enough. If I bring her spoon, the spoon either too big or too small.
Right.
And and then again it goes back to not settling, because there was things that happened even like in the first few months when we start talking. It should have given me an idea this wasn't going to work. But then just putting all my innocence into it, I was thinking, oh, maybe when you get married things will get better. When you have kids things will get better.
No, it doesn't get better. So when you mention the parents in teaching, do you think parents can do, especially Haitian parents, can do a better job in teaching their children how to choose a mate? Or do you think like sometimes those adolescent years, which is when we start thinking about relationship, we think that our parents don't know anything? Well, it could be that they could be trying to teach us, but they're like, those old people don't know what they're talking about. That was back in the day. People.
You're right.
I say that because I know I remember once I had a client, she's of Haitian descent, and she's talking about now she's trying to meet people. And now the only way that people meet people nowadays is online dating. And she's like, her mother was talking about, you don't do that. You don't know those people, and then, and she's thinking, well, my mom doesn't understand that this is the new age. This is how things are done. But her mom has a very good point in saying, hey, meeting people online may not be the best way, even though a lot of people are doing it. So I'm wondering, is that like the struggle between parents trying to teach and then also the adolescent years? Sometimes we got to get burned so we can learn.
I would say maybe try to get to know your kids, especially girls, because when we get to like the hormonal stage, like, you think you know it all. But I do have a friend. She has two daughters. One is 18 and one is 14. And her 18-year-old, like they have such a good bond. She teach her everything. She does everything that, a boy could do for her. That, I mean, even riding a limo, she'll take the daughter on a limousine ride just to, get the feel in case you meet a boy and he's like, oh my God, I'm going to take you on a limo. Like,
right.
What is that? I already been through that,
Right,
so
right.
it's like, just give them a hint of every little thing you think that can come around them and become a trap to them.
Like a temptation.
Yes. Like, let me take you to the movie. Oh, I already been to the movie too many times. I would say, especially in the Haitian community, like we have to be a little bit more open-minded because, like I said again, if you don't teach it to them, their friend is going to teach it to them. And if you don't try to have a relationship with them, they're going to go to a friend that's like the same age as them. And what do they have to teach them? So you can't always assume that they just so young. And I think we talked about that today. Like, like not thinking that the kid is too young that they can't learn certain things that's going on or that's actually happening.
Right, right. So basically, if you have a relationship where they're comfortable with you, there are things that they'll be able to share. And then, you know, when you have life experiences, there are things that are not like, oh, this is like so amazing that a boy is offering me this, that now I'm just going to fall for anything because everything is just so amazing and so brand new. If you have these experiences with your, you know, your parents growing up, it's not like the whole world is like brand new. So when you had decided to pursue the relationship with the former spouse, was your were you able to speak openly with your parents? How did they feel?
Well, you mean like before or after?
Yeah, before you guys were married, were they on board? Were they?
Well, when someone is an opportunist, they have a professional way of doing it that you will never think you're being used.
Right, right.
This person there was, if you're looking for someone to probably change your roof with no experience, he would do it.
So he was a smooth talker and he was, so
he would do it all. Like, I mean, and you know, Haitian parents, like, you know, they love, you know, when the in-law come and they, you know, doing all this thing, taking care of things. So it was like he knew how to get them to fall in love with him a little bit. But that was only my dad, though, because all my siblings and even my mom had doubt about, you know, him. But to me, of course, I was just like, y'all, you guys just, you know, don't want me to be happy, you know.
Right.
I don't want to hear anything you have to say. But if I must say, my family did have doubt about his age and just certain things didn't matter. But of course, as their sister, their daughter, if that's what I want to do, they will support me. But
right.
knowing that they didn't think that was, you know, 100%, you know, honesty there.
Right. So he was able to bamboozle daddy, but but the siblings, they saw through him.
Oh, they did. They did. Certain. Well, I have a few because it's 7 of us. So some of them he wouldn't even approach because he knows, like, those you do something wrong, there's gonna be something coming after that. So those siblings he wouldn't approach, but the one that were really, really nice, then he would approach those to get his way.
So I know that you tried. You said, how long did the marriage last?
4 years.
4 years. And those were very challenging years. So what got to the point where it's like, okay, this is not working?
I mean, I would say over the years, I used to, like, when I could never get the password to his phone. His phone always had to sleep with him. Everywhere he goes, his phone would have to be there. His computer, everything had a code. Like, it's like everything was a secret. And I remember one time we had a argument or something, and he said to me, "Oh, you so-called my spouse, I don't even trust you." I was like, okay, that's a little scary. If I'm living in a house with you, how do you not trust me? Like, what is it that you truly have that you can trust me with? And here I am, I'm trusting you with my bank account, I'm trusting you with everything. So I was like, that was a little scary. Okay. And it's just like, sometimes I would go to his computer, he would be talking to women in Haiti and Paris, everywhere. They calling him baby, and conversation is going back and forth. And I'm like, okay, so like, if I ever get a hold of the computer, I would respond to some of them and be like, hey, you have a wife. Why are you guys conversating like that? He would come home and he's ready to blow because I just done cross his privacy. And I'm like, I knew something was wrong, but it was just like, you know, verbally abuse, and like he attempted to get physical, but I do have a lot of brothers, so they teach me a thing or two. Oh, I've seen them do a few. So when I had to, I put them to use. But it was just like, some days I'd go to sleep or some days I'd be praying, and you know, like in the Haitian culture, like I would do all these things and I'm like, God, what is going on? And like some days he would leave, like let's say for example, if there was an argument and I said, okay, we got to sit there and talk. He would leave and never come back. And if I tried to have a conversation, he would be more angry than I am. So I'm like, okay, there's never like a resolution to any confrontation. There's never a way to talk about anything. And I think over the years, not physically active, not mentally active, not any active, you just get burned down. Yeah, so that's kind
So
of
there was verbal abuse. You felt unsupported, and it was all
unsafe.
Right. Yeah. And I mentioned earlier about, I remember you used to work nighttime, and then you also had to take care of the baby during the daytime, and you did it with such poise. And I don't know how.
Oh God.
And I know especially many women, after they've had a baby, they can suffer from postpartum depression, especially if their environment is not very supporting. What do you think gave you what you needed to keep going? Because I know there are so many women who are in situations like that.
What I would say it's more so like, in the Haitian culture, divorce is not a thing. That's the most, sin you can ever done. So I had the fear of that.
Yeah.
And also just, just being like in a Christian and Haitian community, it's just not a thing. So I was trying to bear it to save embarrassment in the community that I live in. And also I just thought maybe years will make things better, or just, but it's just when it's not meant to be, it doesn't matter what way you try, it's just not going to work. So I had to realize I was the only one trying. But you did mention before, it was after he had his residence, then I started to see another side of him as, okay, I don't need you anymore. And he even mentioned to one of those family friends around when all this was happening toward the divorce, he mentioned to him that he will leave me. It's not because I cheated on him. It's not because of anything unfaithful I did. He just doesn't have a reason to be with me. And when I find out about that later on, I was like, really? So he had planned to leave when things are good on his part. So I think where everything died out was one day he thought it was so bright to call all my siblings and my parents and his family in a meeting. But the meeting was more so what he had to say. I wasn't aware, like all I had to do was show up, and I was going to get bit down and destroyed. So he was going around, just try to get everybody together to have a meeting about me. So it never worked out to where everybody was able to meet at the same time. So one morning from working overnight, I came home and he met me at my dad's house. He decided to have the meeting right then and there. And so he was telling my dad all the things that I never imagined I even have the capacity to do. I was like, if I did that, I would be very bright, but I wouldn't. But he actually said a lot of things that was very demeaning. And like the way he described, he attempted to describe me to my father was very, disrespectful for a woman. It's not even a word. He literally stuck me down and walked over me in front of my father. Oh my God. And at some point we had a conversation about the ring, and he threw the ring on me in front of my father. And when he started saying all this stuff, my dad got so fed up, and he was like, you guys need to get out right now. I'm not having this conversation. I can't. And mind you, my dad have always been on his side, but at that point my dad was like, I'm done. I'm fed up. I don't want to hear it. This is disrespectful. And he was like, as much as I've known part of your family, I never thought you'd have the nerve to come to my house, to say all this stuff, needless to say, about my daughter in front of me. So when I got home, I guess he was really trying to escape, and he wanted to take Ryan with him. Because when I got home, I noticed the passport was gone. Some of my legal paper was gone. My social was gone. Even a diamond ring I had was gone. And I'm like, okay. And things that he would never find in the house, but that particular night he found everything he needed to escape. So luckily I was able to take Ryan with me, and he left, and that was the same time he literally really got aggressive to where he shoved me while I was holding Ryan. And I was like, okay, I can't go home sleeping with this person in the same house. I feel like all there is to it is me going to be dead.
Right.
and then somebody's going to have to tell the story.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
So
And
do you think that it was just his way? He wanted out and he just didn't know, he couldn't just walk out and say, okay, I got what I wanted and I want out. So he was creating these things to murky the water a bit so that it wouldn't seem like it was him who was wrong or who had did something. So
basically,
mhm.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know even, in our relationship, I know how hard you had tried, seeking counseling to see how you can make things work. But I think what happened is when you have a person who is not interested in making it work, it's hard.
Yeah. It
So
takes
not
two.
only not interested in making it work, but somebody who wants out.
Yeah.
You could have somebody who's not making it work and they just don't care and they just, they're not engaged. But you have somebody who's actively trying to destroy the marriage or relationship and they just want out.
Yeah.
And it's sad that you hear these stories over and over about somebody who just, they came in the country, they want their legal status, they'll dupe somebody. And I'm just wondering, how do we change that? How is it us women who needs to be more aware? Because oftentimes you hear that happening more with women than men. Is it that we need to be more aware, like you mentioned before, and not be so desperate? And do we have a conversation to, people in our, especially in the men in our culture, and saying, hey, this is not what you do, because you leave a track of pain and hurt behind when you do things like that. There's because they get in a relationship thinking it's genuine and real, and when in your heart of heart you don't want to be with that person. And sometimes those people, they have their own person that they have left behind.
Yes.
And how do we not speak out? Because you don't hear that talk about often. And that's a problem. A lot of women in our culture get hurt, and some are very traumatized because of somebody who's just looking for an opportunity.
Right. Yeah. I would say, like my husband now says, time is your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
He always says, give it time. You still have a whole life to go. Don't rush anything. Time is your best friend. So
Mm-hmm.
I took that idea and I run with it. Anything you're doing, especially in that situation when you're not sure about something, let time be your best friend. Don't rush into anything, because that's when you slip and you fall. And things happen you can't control.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then, there's nothing that you do in life, I believe, that you don't see it. So now, how did you move and recover and to give love another chance?
Right. Well, I would say that when I met my spouse now,
Yeah.
I was really burnt. I was devastated.
Right.
I was afraid of love. I mean, I've always knew that I love love and I want to experience love. But
Yes.
unfortunately, I didn't have the right person to share the experience with. And when I met my spouse now, we were just friends. And actually, I knew him from middle school. We was in the same middle school. But of course, I was too timid. So I knew he was there because he was a class clown, but he didn't know me because I was too timid. So we had all the same friends, but we never really talked.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we live not too far from each other. So, sometimes he'll come around the neighborhood playing with other friends or whatever. So I would see him then. But I mean, I always said I never wanted to marry anyone from this town where I'm from. So God was like, okay, I didn't send you to Tampa to get married. That's not where I wanted you to find your spouse. He was like, I had someone here for you, but you was rushing. You couldn't wait for me.
Uh-huh.
So when I moved back down here and after everything happened, and I used to work overnight, he used to be a manager at a Walgreens, and I used to just go there to find medicine or things like that. And a few times I run into him and I'm like, you look familiar. And of course he didn't know who I was. And he was like, oh, can I see one of the yearbooks? So I was like, I can't do you that satisfaction, so I'm not doing that. So then, we'll just talk and I would go in the store and I'm like, I'll tell my dad, I'm like, so this kid here had no idea who I was when I was in school. I guess I wasn't, hot enough that, to see me. But then he was a really, really nice person. He's always laughing and he always, he's a very people person. So I remember I was working at a barber shop near his house.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he lived nearby. And one time I went to the Walgreens and I was giving out business cards. And I was like, oh, hey, if you have anybody in the area, give them my card so that they can reach out to me.
Uh-huh.
He was like, okay. And one day, well, I gave so many people my number, so I didn't know, like, who's calling me. I'm like,
Right.
oh, Lord. So one day he called me and I was trying to find out who it was. And he was like, your crush, your secret admirer. I was like, huh? I'm like, I said, what if that's like one of those? Exactly. I'm like, what if it's one of those creepy old men that I gave my number to? Lord have mercy. So, and that went on for like 2 to 3 days. And I'm like, oh boy. I was like, well, if you don't tell me who you are, I'm like blocking your number from my phone. That's when he was like, oh, it's such and such. I was like, oh, okay. But then, of course, I was still like, burnt inside. So
Right.
I didn't know I had room to let people in.
Right.
And, when we talked, it was just like, friend. Like, I mean, I didn't have no intention in like, dating at
Right.
that time. So we just kind of talk and like, I remember one time he took me out to eat and we were just laughing and laughing and laughing. And mind you, I'm one of those people. I didn't like going to restaurants. I was too picky. But that time when he took me out, I remember one of his friends called and he was like, I'm on a date. I was like, what? I'm on a date? Like, I didn't know this was a date. What? But he's so funny. Like, he made me laugh all night. Like, we just joke and laugh. Like, knowing that, well, I didn't have no intention in dating. And he said the same thing. So we just laugh and laugh and laugh. And next time he invited me to go out to eat again. I was like, well, why not? I don't want the food, but I'm going for the laugh. So that went on and on for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, he's the guy with time is your best friend. So after a few months, I guess we kind of observed each other. And finally, he, I even mentioned to him, I'm like, well, why are you even talking to me? Don't you know I had a past? And he's like, well, the only reason I'm talking to you is because I find out there's no longer a past. And he said, this guy must have been a fool to let you go, so I'm keeping you. Well, he's lost. He's like, okay, I'm not letting that go. Thanks to him, I got you now, and I'm not letting you go. Oh boy. It's like, oh well, great. I'm like, okay. So then we started talking,
Mm-hmm.
slowly but surely we got to know each other. I remember once he said to me, he said, if anyone is dating you and they don't love your son as much as they love you, don't date them.
Right.
Because yeah, he says anything that they should be able to do for you, they should be able to do even more for your son.
Right.
So
right.
when he said that, I was like, oh my God, I think he's right. Of course.
Right, because that's a big challenge for women who has a child and now in a new relationship. You're thinking you don't want your child to feel rejected or unloved, and you want that person to accept the child, and that can be very hard balancing whether or not you want to be involved in a relationship because you want to protect your child.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So he won your heart and melt away the calluses.
Well,
and,
go ahead, you were saying.
and fast forward, you guys got married.
Yes.
You have a little one.
So we did get married about 2 years and 3 months ago. it has been the most, I don't know, like, I mean, it has been the closest thing to heaven to me.
That's beautiful. You
Yes.
deserve it.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And I mean, you've seen me shed a few tears, so you know.
Yes.
So he's been wonderful, and I'm just lucky that God allowed me to have a second chance at love,
Yes.
and just to find someone who truly loves you for you and not
Right.
expecting anything out of you is the most wonderful feeling ever.
Right, right. And that's what make a relationship work when it's like, okay, I'm in it, not because I want something from you, but because I want to express love. And I love how you put it. I love love. I've always loved love. Yes, love is a beautiful thing.
As if you
Um,
find the right person to share it with.
right, right. Well, when you have love, and if the other person doesn't have love in their heart, then you have that inequality and imbalance. And not to say that when you have love there isn't challenges. There are challenges. There's gonna be challenges in any relationship. It's not that there's a lack of love. It's just that, hey, we are imperfect beings.
Trying to do perfect things.
And sometimes we hurt each other, not intentionally. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes, we don't know how to communicate our thoughts and feelings effectively. But when you have love, love is able to guide you through and overcome those challenges and those obstacles.
Right.
I know you're still newlyweds because 2 years. Yeah, I think we'll call the first 3 years, the honeymoon phase.
Definitely.
But like I said, you do so much. I don't know, how do you balance it? You work as a hairstylist. You have your business as a event planner. You have sweet little Alana. That's what she's.
Yes. Well, on top of, the stack of busy things I do, I started a YouTube channel for her during the Corona.
Yes, I've seen a few of her videos. So cute.
Yes. She loved fruits and vegetables, and she loved to dance and sing. And I thought, you know what? I mean, it's such a hard time right now, and it's just so much going on. So I thought maybe if I share what I'm experiencing on a daily basis, it'll put a smile on someone's face.
Yeah. I love the mango one.
Oh yeah.
What's her channel? What's her channel again?
Lena Castle.
Okay.
Lena Castle on YouTube. Yeah. She's been doing really, really good. Of course, with challenges, we haven't able to post as often as we used to, but we're working on it. Yes.
So what helps you balance it all?
I would say having a wonderful spouse.
Okay.
He is definitely my cheerleader.
Okay.
He is definitely my partner, my business. He have no interest in decorating, but whatever makes me smile, he will do.
So having that support is very important.
Yes, just him, supporting me in everything that I'm doing. Really truly helped me grow and just being able to balance everything.
Right, right. So how about with the children? Do you find that you get overwhelmed, like you mentioned, with school being online now, and then to have school with 7-year-old, and then to have a little one who doesn't care about it's time for school and you need to be quiet and let your big brother work? How do you do it?
Right. It has been very challenging. Have 2 different age kids.
Right.
Like you said, one who doesn't care what time it is, and one who have to be in front of the computer at a certain time.
Right.
I do think family do play a lot of roles in this.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. My mother-in-law now, I have the sweetest, loving, caring mother-in-law you can ever ask for.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so after the rain, the sunshine, and God, make everything better. She definitely helped me a lot. I mean, it does, like my family. I do think family play a big role in, how we're able to manage everything.
Right.
And some days they would even take the baby so that I can focus on my son with school, or vice versa. So family does help a lot to where I'm not like pulling my hair out. I
Right.
couldn't do it without, their help.
Yeah, right, right. Yes, I've heard that, when you have the support of friends and family who can help out, that helps lighten the load. And in the previous video, I talked about that, about especially in the Haitian community, we're more community oriented and helping in support. So when you find that community and you find that help, that can be very helpful to maintain your sanity, knowing that you have that.
Yes.
Okay. What are some of the challenges? You mentioned, having the two different ages and trying to make sure that you are attentive to each one of them. What are some other challenges that?
Well, let's see. I think like the first weeks of school was very, very challenging because, as boys, well, you don't have boys. You don't have any boys. But just having a little boy, they're very active. They're always
Right.
into things. They have to be moving.
Right.
And it's like every few minutes I had to go back and make sure he's focusing. He's, not that he's thinking about something, but when she asked to be written down, that he's actually writing it down.
Yeah.
So it was very challenging. But the good thing with that is that sometimes we'll put the baby in front of the TV in another room. So she would be watching ABCs in Shape. The good thing about that is recently at 1.5 years, she already know all her alphabet.
Wow.
Yes, she count to 10.
Wow.
And she is able to say every song that she hear. Like she sings all the time now.
You need to do some of those videos and put them
Yes.
start singing.
We're working on them. Yes.
Okay. So how about with blending the family? Do you feel like you are a unit, or how about Ryan? How is he adjusting, and how has that worked out?
I think my husband always wanted to not make him feel like he wasn't a part of the family. He have done everything in his power to make him feel loved and appreciated and welcome. So I think if anything, Ryan is probably much more comfortable than I am. I think God did a wonderful blending. He actually put us all together, and he had equipped my husband with everything that he needed to be able to adapt to both of us, and just the family's one big happy family. And the funny thing is, Ryan looks so much like my husband now.
Yes, he does.
God did everything in his time. He looks so much like my husband that everybody's like, oh my God, is this your son? I didn't know you had a kid. And he's like, yeah, yeah. So
isn't it amazing how God works? And yes, when we trust in him.
Definitely. You just have to wait on him. You can't be things that happen to me can happen to you when you learn to, when you don't wait on God. You try to do things on your own, the bridge can burn down. But if you allow God to pick and choose, he will give you what he knows your heart is desired.
Right. And it's so amazing that he's gracious, that even though, we might fail him and might try to do our own thing, when we come to him and say, God, please help.
Yes.
It's like, I've been waiting to help you. And he helps.
Yes.
And he works it out. He is such an amazing God.
Definitely.
Yes. All right. Well, anything that you'd like to share, and something that, hey, if there's a woman out there who's like, oh, I hear your story, but that's not my story because I'm still dealing with this
situation. I would say, for anyone who's going through what I've been through, just like I said before, time is your best friend. Listen to when people is giving you advice, because you may not see the importance of it right at the moment, but down the line, you're going to realize what they were saying, it was for your own interest. So just seek for advice when you're making, those type of decisions. And always stay in prayer because God will not fail you. So trust in God for everything you need, including a spouse. And he will give you what your heart desire.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yes, being open-minded, because sometimes God will use people to communicate with you, because He speaks however He wants. He can speak in His Word. He can speak through a person, a friend. He could even speak through your enemies. You know, being open-minded and listening can often help us. And then in prayer, even when we're confused, we can ask for clarity. Prayer is one of the most powerful tools that we have. And sometimes we don't use it, you know, as often as we should. Yeah, that is amazing. All right, Miss Gigi, thank you so much for sitting down and talking and sharing your experience and being vulnerable, because I know it's a sensitive topic. Not easy to open up our wounds and to open up our heart and to share with people. So I know that was difficult. So I really thank you for being vulnerable in that sense and to help, because I know your story is going to help other women. So thank you. I'm glad that God is working in your life and doing some great things. And I know He has even greater things for you and your family.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I always love talking to you, and I feel like, you know, it's therapeutic for me talking to you sometimes. So this was perfect. But I always wanted to encourage people, you know, if you in my surrounded area, if you have an event coming up, you know, look up Gigi Elegant Decor.
I'll be sure to put it in the description too.
Yes. I will be more than happy to give you a free consultation and assist you with anything you need.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.